have a great webinar scheduled here. I'm Mike Musselman, one of the owners of NewFields Ag and FYRE-UP. And today we have as guests Steve Visted and Ron Dels from Dakota Bio. And as you know, NewFields Ag works extensively with multiple suppliers to bring us very good biologicals for this space. And so we're bringing in Steve and Ron to help us today to learn more as part of our educational process. And I just had a few introductory comments and slides here as we get kicked off for those who haven't listened in. And so I want to let you know that we have some of our sales reps, our business development managers also available. They're on the call: Dan Johnson, Amanda Hill, Chris Roberts. I think John Buck will be joining us also. They're in different locations ready to help and visit with farmers like yourself or our reseller dealers. And NewFields Ag and FYRE-UP are about bringing innovations in your field. You know us as FYRE-UP from the dust logo you see up in the corner of my display. We're the cleaner, safer soy option, also making many inclusion products that carry using the dust to carry the biologicals. And so we're in current development with Dakota Bio for at least one, if not two products potentially. So watch for that as we go along. With NewFields Ag, we've worked very hard to put together a wonderful lineup of biologicals, and we're developing and implementing climate smart technologies to enhance the soil and plant health and nutrient management efficiencies. These are all important topics to farmers and important topics of the day. And one of the things you'll see when Steve visits today with us, the idea of science and practical technologies. We're leaders in the industry, and Steve will give you the background of their company and visit about the fermentation process that they use for bringing about these products, as well as some of the scientists that we are able to have work with us. So biological and crop input solutions for farmers that increase plant health and soil health and ROI. We want to bring you high quality products with excellent agronomic support and training on how to use the products. I was at the Farm Progress Show last August and had a farmer come in the booth, and he was saying he was using a couple different products. And I said, well, can you tell me what those products do for you? And he said, well, I don't really know. That's just what I was told to use by the person that was selling it to me. And I invited him into the booth to chat a little bit and encouraged him that we want to learn, we want to know the modes of actions. And this is the good work and diligence that we've taken to sit with a farmer and educate. And you'll see that as an important piece for us, all the way from the scientists down to the manufacturing, down to the equipment, down to the use, to the modes of actions on these different types of products that are out there in the marketplace. So, we hope that we're not just sitting there when we want to talk about soil health or fertility and so on, or biologicals. When you're at the party and no one wants to talk about soil health, you just sit there and you're kind of like, why are we alone? What's nice is I think that we're not necessarily alone out here in the marketplace, bringing a message about the use and need for biologicals. Farmers are hearing a lot of from a lot of different sources, and we know they're looking for guidance in how these fit in. And this is one of the things that we find very critical is how to engage you in discussions in this webinar and training that we do, as well as the in-person meetings we do as part of that. And we have a goal, and we hope that you'll look to us to help be one of those important voices sitting at the table And I like to say to someone, we don't have to be the only supplier sitting at your table, but with what we put together and our experience, we think that we would earn at least one of the seats at the table when we make decisions about what you're going to do in for the next cropping year. So the global agriculture markets are expanding rapidly for biologicals. This is a AgWeb survey that was done. So for you farmers out there that are thinking about proof of concept on biologicals, this is an interesting response. It's 672 farmers, so it was not necessarily a super large nor a very small survey, but 4% at the time felt like they didn't see necessarily benefit using biologicals. 21% said they didn't know. 35%, so that's about a quarter of the farmers. 35% said I see potential using biologicals, and 41% said I need to know more before using. So, I think you all are in that 3/4 at a minimum. Many of you have used the product and are looking for expanding. And what we see this as an interest to bring in these different products. So looking at key metrics for bringing a product in and how we discuss it, we want to know, does the product work? Is there agronomic or yield potential? Does it provide an ROI? And can a farmer use it in the operation? And Steve will visit about those different aspects when he talks about how the Dakota bioproducts fit into our lineup and how they work and provide the ROI and in the operation. So those are very key important things for us. There's epiphytes, endophytes, soil dwelling types of microbes, and then additional derivatives that are not live but derived from the microbial fermentation process. And we're excited because Steve is introducing and we're introducing a new product, DB25, that is a derivative from microbial fermentation that is a wonderful product that reduces stress and increases mitochondria activity. And we're bringing that out for an in-furrow and a foliar and targeting it heavily for a foliar. So we'll learn about that a little bit as we go. The other thing I think that's important for you to keep in mind, what we've done to assemble a lineup is we want to be able to meet you as a farmer in a place that you're able to operationally benefit and use it. So some people don't have in-furrow. Some people may not have the capability to put on a foliar. Some people don't have the ability to put on their own seed treatments. So we want to address these different places and issue and operational situations, as well as show you when and where you can apply them, and also present the opportunity for maybe stacking and seeing how that can help. So we lean heavily on our dust, which is our patented biocomplex inclusion carrier technology. We've got a lot of liquid in furrows, foliar application. And then if you do have a seed treater, we can step into that area also for getting you some solutions to help. So I'll start it off here for Steve using the information in the sense that they provided us. We're looking for that agronomic benefit, that operational benefit, and that economic benefit. And what's nice about it is that when we look at what we bring in the lineup, and Steve and Ron have some good information to show that 75 to 80% of the time we want a win rate, and we want 2 to 3 times the ROI. If we can provide this to you, these are the kind of metrics that you use when you pick new hybrids or varieties, and to give you a good return on investment is very important for us. So dust is one of those that gives you excellent return on investment. Just using dust itself can provide you a benefit for seed singulation. It can provide you an ROI based upon that it's made of amino acids. We look at the PFR data, and we're getting a nice ROI with the product, and it's not found in the soil after 28 days, and it's become a preferred carrier to bring biologicals to to that space. So one piece of information I want to throw up here for you. If you have done any testing with this yield data is important for us if we could get some back. And also what we've seen is that sometimes there's errors in the data that we get back, and we have to search through it to see what really happened. And so we want to encourage you that maybe don't just take your yield monitor data at face value and run through the field and say that's what the real story was. If you have field information that you would like analyzed, we have some good analyzation software that we can, that one of our vendors or people that we work with can work through with us to find out what really happened in the field. There's lots of reasons why you can have problems with your data and maybe don't show a yield advantage. And we want to get into that down to the level to make a better decision for an ROI. You know, sometimes these 1, 3, and 4 bushels are hard to find, but they're there. And in today's economy, those are significant gains. So keep that in mind. If you could get us some raw yield data out of the combine and planter, we'd like to do some analysis for you on how these products may have worked for you. And just one potential common problem is, you know, you plant your side by side, but when you harvest, you don't go necessarily down the side by side in that same pass across the whole field, and you combine and you mix things in the treatments. And then when you get your yield map, you're like, oh, well, this is kind of what it was, but we forget at times, you know, where that data may have come from. So our people can that we work with can take that and really analyze that and pull things out. So I just want to encourage you, send us over yield data. We'll add that to the yield data, some of which Steve will show you to give us a better picture of the performance on these products. So with that, Steve, I'll let you take it away this morning, and I'll stop sharing and give you the opportunity to share your screen. So,
okay, all right. Well, I'd like to start off by saying thank you for inviting Dakota Bio here to talk about our products. We love talking about our products. This is fun for us. We've been doing this a long time, and it's exciting, and we just get really excited about our products and partnerships like Low Mutech and NewFields Ag. I'd also like to wish everybody Merry Christmas this week. So it's an exciting week and so forth. And then Ron is on the call. So Ron's one of our account managers. He's working, you know, we don't have hard and fast lines in our company. We go wherever it suits the customer best, but Ron focuses on Iowa, Nebraska, eastern Kansas, northern Missouri, and for the most part, that's where most of his time is spent. We have people up in the Dakotas. We have people east of the Mississippi and in Indiana, Illinois, and we got more people coming on board. We got a new guy out in the far northeast. So basically, wherever you're at, if you have questions and interest in our products, reach out to Michael or any of us at Dakota Bio. We'd love to answer your questions and help you out, because if our products are designed to solve problems, and if you have a problem that we can help you with, that's what we're here for. So I will share my screen. Michael, let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
Okay.
It's up.
All right.
go ahead. Looks great.
Okay, so we will get started. On the screen, you see a list of our products here that we're going to go through. So Phenom is a nitrogen fixing biological. The B4 family of products is phosphorus solubilizers. DB25 is a new product coming out this year that is very exciting, and it affects how plants manage stress. DB29 is a new biostimulant, and then we have a full lineup of legume inoculants, the soy 30, the soy 7, stride, chickpea, PVL. So basically any legume that you are growing on your farm, we have an inoculant for that. So let's get started. Let's dive in. I can get my screen to change here. There we go. Okay,
Yeah,
so
Steve, I
yes.
want to just make a comment. Thank you for that simple introduction on that. Everyone, please note, if you want to chat, just see that chat bubble up at the top. Dan, I think, is monitoring those questions. We'll try to get to those right away as quick as we can if you want to type a question in. And then also, we will have some time for question and answer at the end also.
Yeah, don't be afraid to just jump in with a
Yeah,
question at any time.
yeah. And
Sometimes,
if you want to take
usually,
yourself off of mute, go ahead too. That's
yeah.
fine. We can
Tell
have a
me to
discussion.
shut up and just blurt it out, because the question in the moment of the topic is usually best for everyone. So all right, I'll just dive in here. A quick little introduction into our production. So in the world of bacteria, when you grow bacteria, it's called fermentation. So you have all these stainless steel tanks and pipes and computer controls, but this tank, you think of these tanks as like a feedlot. We put some bacteria in the bottom, and we put the food, and we create the temperatures and the pHs, and all the perfect environment is in that tank for the bacteria to multiply and grow and just continue to reproduce until you fill the tank. And the computers and the custom written software controls just monitor all those conditions inside that tank to create the perfect environment for the reproduction of the bacteria. And then we drain off the tank and package it, and away it goes off to your farm. So this plant on the left is where virtually all of our products are produced except for the B4 and the DB25. This is all human pharmaceutical grade equipment. It is a top-notch facility. We've been operating this for about 20 years, got a full science team in place, and it is just an excellent facility, and really the only facility I know of in agriculture in North America that has pharmaceutical grade equipment, sterilization, water purification, and the whole 9 yards there. So wonderful facility, very proud of that. Plant number 2 over here, that is a company that we've hired to produce and ferment our B4 products. So the B4ST and the B4LIF that we'll be talking about in a minute. But this is a FDA food grade approved fermentation facility. Everything is still stainless steel and custom controls, wonderful spore manipulation and concentrations, uh, brand new updated clean room technology, full science team, just like plant number 1. And really what it comes down to, and why we chose to have them produce the B4 for us, is a couple reasons. B4 is a very strong group of organisms. That's why it performs so well out in the field. And I can't brag enough about B4, but because of how hardy and easy to use, all the attributes we like about B4 out in the field, it makes it so when you produce it in a facility with other organisms, there's just risk of contamination. So we like to keep B4 completely separate. We like to just keep everything pure and as high quality and highest quality control standards as possible. The other reason we chose this partner is this is one of the world leaders in probiotics and human nutritional supplements. So they are producing and fermenting biologicals for that probiotic industry. And with some of their supply agreements that are in place over the next year, 1 billion, that's a B, 1 billion people a day will consume biologicals from this facility. So this is a top-notch facility, extremely high quality controls, and the FDA is up in there monitoring them like you wouldn't believe. So it's a really top-notch facility that puts out wonderful products, and that's why B4 is so great. Quick little intro into product development here. So we really, like everyone in the industry, we focus on agronomic benefits, but we really pride ourselves in what does this bacteria do in the soil and the plant? What problem does it solve? We're not into large mixtures. We're not into flock shooting. We really pride ourselves in understanding the bacteria and its relationship with the plant and the soil and what problem it solves. So if you are experiencing that problem, you can make a better choice on your farm for how to raise yields and raise income. Secondly, is we focus a lot on operational benefits. Everyone at Dakota Bio has a farm background, so we really understand the planters, the sprayers, the seed treaters, and all of the issues and the decisions that go into farming today. And these products are hard to understand. Bacteria is not an easy one, and microbials, it's not easy. It's confusing and it's new, and there's a lot of information coming at people in this market nowadays. So not only do you got to have the agronomic benefit, you got to be easy to use. You got to be compatible with other products in the industry for blends and tank mixes, and you got to have good packaging. So it's really, we try to bring that farm boy logic into this space to communicate and educate and bring easy to use products. And we call those operational benefits. And then, of course, the economic benefit. You got to be able to make money. If our customers, if you buying our products, if it doesn't improve your financials, if it doesn't make you more money, you're not going to use the product a second time. So we really focus on identifying that and bringing you good data and information in large volumes of data so you can make the best decisions possible. So to wrap up our research and product testing so we have 2 labs. We're actually about to bring a 3rd one online. That's new info. We haven't said that publicly yet, but we have 2 labs going to 3 very soon, 2 grow rooms, internal research farm. We have another microbiologist coming on staff here in January. And so the way product development and testing works is it starts in the lab. You have to test and grow and run these bacteria through different sequences of testing to really evaluate what do they do and how do they do it and how do we grow these bacteria, because there's lots of beneficial bacteria out there, but science doesn't know how to handle them yet for packaging and fermentation and so forth. So there's a lot of great things on the horizon, but everything starts in the lab. Then the first time these products and these bacteria and these microbials are introduced to plants is in the grow room. So it's very small scale, but just close monitoring to see how they function. And it's just another stage gate of testing. Then we go to our own internal research farm because these products need to work through standard farm equipment. They need to be able to handle the being in the real world, and then we take them to independent research farms. So we're currently working with 13 different research farms across 12 different states and 20 different locations to put these products to the test under a wide array of geographies and conditions and climates and hybrids and so forth. And that is where our yield data comes from, is these independent replicated research farms. And then we have amassed thousands of plots and data points. And so when I get later in this presentation into yield data, that's where it comes from. So let's dive in and run through the products. So as we go through these products, please, like we said earlier, feel free to stop me and ask questions at any time. We'll start with Phenom. So Phenom, what is it? Phenom is a nitrogen fixing biological product. It is a blend of two different endophyte bacteria. One bacteria fixes nitrogen. One bacteria increases phosphorus efficiency. Phenom can be used on all crops, and we have a Phenom ST that can be applied on seed, and Phenom can be applied in furrow or foliar. So it's two different formulations to cover three different applications. So as I said, Phenom is a blend of two endophyte bacteria. So I want to be clear on what that means. Endophyte bacteria live inside the plant. They do not live in the soil. They can survive for a while in the soil, but they don't live in the soil. That's not their home. Inside the plant is where they live and reproduce and populate. So the question is, how do you get Phenom into your crop? Well, Phenom ST, you put it on the seed, then you plant the seed, and when that seed germinates, the bacteria enter through that coleoptile and radicle. And how they do that is the first root and shoot after germination have a very high concentration of stoma. There's these microscopic openings in that plant, and that is how the bacteria get inside. So then they are beginning to work and grow and populate that plant from the day of germination. So how Phenom works is as that seedling grows and develops into a plant and gets after emergence, your stoma are opening and air from the atmosphere comes inside the stoma. So stoma are up and down the stalk of plants and the underside of the leaves. And that's that little opening where air and water vapor and oxygen goes out and air from the atmosphere goes in. And these blue shapes here represent the Phenom bacteria. They grow and colonize just inside that stoma. So when air comes in from our atmosphere, our air in our atmosphere is 78% nitrogen, but it's in the N2 form. That's an unusable form of nitrogen by plants. And the Phenom bacteria, they convert N2 to NH4. So what you're doing is you're causing every plant to become its own nitrogen factory. You're producing nitrogen and feeding that plant as it breathes. So the number one question we get is, when is the best time to apply Phenom foliar? Because like I said, you can put it on the seed through a seed treater. It is a liquid. You can put it in furrow. It is a liquid with your starter. But when can you apply foliar? So you can apply Phenom with your first herbicide pass or a fungicide pass or any liquid pass you're making across that field. And it starts to work approximately 48 hours after application. Now, your greatest need of nitrogen in your corn crop is really about V3 through the reproductive stages. Is at your highest need. So you want to get Phenom into that plant as early as possible. You want to give that bacteria as much time to reproduce, increase numbers, coat the whole plant, get to every stoma as it grows. So when that plant breathes, it's fixing nitrogen. So really what is best on a foliar application is as early as possible. So we like to tell people your first herbicide pass after emergence, that's when you should apply Phenom. Now, we do apply Phenom in our research farms all the way out to to late fungicide and brown silk stages up in the R stages of corn, and we see yield benefit, we see ROI, it's profitable, but the time for that bacteria to be in the plant is shorter. So you are fixing nitrogen for a shorter amount of time, and you're missing some of this window of very high need for development. So applying foliar or as a seed treatment or liquid in furrow earliest is best.
Steve, we have a question from
Yes.
Trenton. If we use phenom to treat the seed, how long is the phenom bacteria viable on the seed prior to planting?
Great question. Maximum of 15 days. So it is not as hardy of a biological as let's say our B4 product or some inoculants, but shorter is better. So phenom is the type of bacteria that you want to treat it to the seed and plant it as soon as possible. You have a 15-day window.
A 15-day window. And how about when you put it in the an in-furrow type of
Yep.
if you put water, if you put your phosphoric acid, if you're doing in-furrow starters and you want to mix it in there, do we have to use it the same day, or do we have a little bit of time there?
Yep, and I actually just told you the wrong number, so I'm correcting myself already. It's 30 days in starter fertilizer, or it's 30 days on the seed, 15 days on the seed.
Okay. 30 days life on seed.
Yep.
After being treated.
Yep. Shorter's better.
15 days when you put it in the starter. And give me an idea of, let's just say I'm using more harsh 1034O versus higher quality, lower salt phosphoric acid. Do you have any indicator there? Do we still say 15 days on the 1034O, or do we need to say add water, or do we need to say less time? What's your indicator there?
Great question. We can't test every starter out there. So we test 1034O as our harsh, bad, worst environment. That's the 15 days. The higher pHs with lower salts, the higher quality, more gentle starters are longer. So we are putting the conservative worst case number on that tank mix compatibility.
Okay.
But shorter is better. You do have loss. It's not like you are maintaining this. If you plotted it on a graph, you're not maintaining 100% of all your bacteria and life is perfect and great for 15 days and then poof, it's gone. No, it's a decline. This bacteria wants to be in the plant. So if you're in a tank, if you're in a starter fertilizer, if you're in a jug or a bladder or a planter, that's not where God created this bacteria to live. So it's not the perfect environment. So you want to be gentle and take care of it as best as possible. And a lot of these nitrogen fixing bacteria products on the market are what I would consider need to be handled gently. So 15-day max in furrow, 30-day max on seed, shorter is better. And then foliar tanks, foliar applications, that with herbicides and adjuvants and we test all the major ones in the industry. Can't test all the generics, but what we see there is a maximum of 12 hours in that spray tank for foliar applications. I see a question popping up there about chlorine in the water. Yes, chlorine kills bacteria. Yes, it does.
And so our recommendation would be, if you use a municipal source, that we would want you to consider using a dechlorinator, or you have to let your water set open for a minimum of 24 hours to off gas that chlorine. So that's a technical piece Great question that we want people to know and educate in, because there's probably times when there's some people who have not seen what they want to see with the use of a biological because they didn't treat their water or they had a problem with their water source. So cleaner water is better. And there's
Yes.
also a potential concern if you're pulling water out of a farm well that it could have some harsh
Heavy metals.
chemistries in there. And so we want to caution you on that in terms of taking that spray water, and please don't pull water out of a ditch to spray with. You're just not getting very far with that kind, or a tile. You're just not getting very far because that water has a lot of calcium and different nutrients in a sense, and soil, and that can tie up any of the things you're trying to put on that can be problematic also. So clean water is the great place to start.
Yeah, because the whole reason the city water plant puts chlorine in your water is to kill bacteria.
Right.
Yep.
Great
So
questions.
that's part of that's the all-encompassing part of when I say shorter is better. I'm trying not to dive into an hour-long science lesson here, but it's we don't know what's in your water and you don't know what's in your water, so let's be honest. You got a fragile biological, there's something in it that's going to harm it. We know it's not going to be a perfect environment. That's why shorter is better to cover your situation and to give you the best chance of success. Now, when we get to B4, totally different organism. These are all unique. These are all different, but phenom and inoculants and pivot bios, the Invitas, they're all pretty fragile. Those nitrogen fixers. Should I continue, Michael? Or was there more? Was there another one on the list? Okay. Keep them coming, gentlemen.
Yeah, go ahead.
So looking at soybeans for a minute here. Soybeans, we all kind of forget about, I shouldn't say forget, but we don't focus as much on soybean management. And they're a legume. They produce their own nitrogen with the right bacteria, which is an inoculant. But Phenom on soybeans is a very excellent product. And so when we look at Phenom versus inoculant, so we manufacture and ferment the soy 30 inoculant, but Phenom gets in that seed, like we said, right after germination. Gets in that seedling right after germination. So we're starting that process of fixing nitrogen at emergence. And we are providing that soybean nitrogen all season long to feed it. When you inoculate a soybean, that inoculant takes a few weeks to really begin to work, because the legumes, before they'll allow that inoculant to infect the root and create a nodule, it really needs to run low on nitrogen. And what we found out is when you use phenom on soybeans, that plant is so small, so we're not affecting a delay in nodulation, but we're getting a little extra growth early on. Then the inoculants kick in, but inoculants begin to, or soybeans begin to shed their nodules, and the inoculants quit fixing nitrogen when you start that pod set, in the R stages of growth, and phenom continues all the way until you begin to ripen. So through those critical pod fill periods in a soybean, having that extra window of the plant making its own nitrogen from phenom is a wonderful benefit. And having that inoculant, so whether you use inoculant or phenom or both, we see great advantages on soybeans with phenom. So picture from a research farm here. If you've listened to our talks in the past, you've probably seen this picture, but what happened here was fall applied nitrogen anhydrous the toolbar broke and was not putting out anhydrous on half the toolbar. Next year, when the corn came up, you could see these yellow nitrogen deficient stripes across the cornfield. Got to the test strip of phenom on this research farm, and the yellow nitrogen deficient strips disappeared. And this was phenom applied in furrow. So nitrogen's a volatile nutrient. We all know that. We can lose it for many reasons in the environment and the climate, but we can also use it just because things break, things happen. It's a tough world we live in where we're farming, and things don't always work perfect. Phenom was there to really benefit this crop when we had this malfunction. This turned out to be a 17.5 bushel increase, and you can see the cobs from the phenom versus the cobs from the deficient nitrogen. These plants all need nitrogen for grain fill. This is a study. This is actually a 2-year study, but just going to dive into this year, 2022, where we purposefully looked at different levels of applying nitrogen. So we started with, well, actually, I'll back up a little bit. This was a researcher that wanted to do a real world test on these nitrogen fixing biologicals because they are fragile. And not every farmer is able to handle these products as delicately as the labels always say, but just did it in a real world fashion. So what they did was they mixed up their starter fertilizer and the product in the afternoon, let the mixture sit just overnight. So well within label and well within, the tank mix compatibilities of these products, but it was just an overnight sit. It was where most research farms, they mix up these starters and these products right there and head down the field. They're planting within minutes. This was just let it sit overnight to really show and try to explore and learn the durability differences between some of these products. And then what they did was we had 200 pounds of nitrogen applied to the corn and then test strips with 150 pounds of nitrogen. So we gave it a little bit of stress on the tank mix, and we had full rate of nitrogen, and we took away 50 pounds. So when we look at that, the results were 200 bushel corn with no phenom came in at 204 bushel per acre. So pretty good crop. Right next to it, the next set of strip was Proven. Came in at just a couple tenths under 204, so virtually a tie. And the Invita came a couple tenths of a bushel above the 200 bushels or 200 pounds of N, excuse me, virtually a tie. And then the Phenom came in with a 10 bushel increase with not cutting any nitrogen. Then they took away the 50 pounds of N to do the next set of strips. So the yield dropped on that corn down to 196. The Invita showed a yield increase up to almost 200, so about a 199. They were not able to get the Prove N in this test. They did not have the product for that to do 2 tests. And then the Phenom came in at 205. So what we're looking at here is the best return on investment. The best economics was don't cut your N and apply Phenom. The second best here is they took away the 50 pounds of N, and the Phenom beat the 200 pounds of N by 1 bushel. Now, in 2021, when we did this test, this was a 17 bushel increase, and this was a 4 bushel increase over the 200. So 2 years of testing, of putting this to the test in a situation like this by the same researcher, the same PhD agronomist, and Phenom coming out on top 2 years in a row. So as I mentioned on the first phenom slide is the increase in phosphorus efficiency, that second bacteria. We like to spend the majority of our time talking about nitrogen. That's what we're all excited about. But here's the thing. Phenom affects how that plant processes and consumes and metabolizes phosphorus. We're not increasing the phosphorus in your soil. We're not increasing the uptake of phosphorus. We're increasing the amount of energy produced inside the plant from phosphorus. So it's a very nice second benefit to phenom in this nitrogen fixing biological space. It's considered a second mode of action to phenom versus the competitors. So let's talk the operational side of phenom for a minute. Oh, I see a question coming in. It's gone. I can't see it. It's gone. I couldn't read fast enough. Sorry. You got that, Michael?
Yeah. Will soybean seed lubigen affect? Let's see here. Let me go over there. So, question from Ed: will soybean seed lumigen affect the biological seed treatment? So, Ed, if you want to take yourself off mute, I think lumigen would be a treatment from Pioneer. It's one of the ingredients, but I don't know which ingredient that is. Is it a which kind of chemistry is it? A fungicide, insecticide, or something different?
Yeah, I don't know what it is either, technically.
I'll look that up and see what it is and come back to that.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Google that and let's circle back.
It's 4 fungicides, a biological, and there's 2 others, a polymer, and
Okay.
I forget the other one.
Yeah, if you tank mix that with phenom, yeah, or any of these nitrogen fixing biologicals, yeah, you're going to hurt the bacteria for sure. Absolutely.
So this is a seed treatment that's being put on the seed as one in their new Lumi lineup.
So I would say do not tank mix it on the seed close to planting within that 30-day window. Shorter's better. But do not tank mix.
Right. So when you're talking about tank mixing, if he is taking that product, that's his on-seed applied fungicide, insecticide, polymer mix. You want him to treat it just like you would treat a bradyrhizobium, put it in the inoculant pot separately and apply it. And if he does that, that's an acceptable practice to keep it available for up to 30 days on corn and soybean seed.
Yes, mix it on the seed. Don't mix it in the tank and let it sit at the treater with the fungicide and the phenom all mixed together. Don't tank mix, but you can mix on the seed. Does that make sense? I forget the gentleman's name. I'm sorry.
Ed. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. So we'll cover the operational side of phenom quickly. So all Dakota Bio products come with a born on date on every package. So you know when that bacteria went in that package, and to ensure that it's fresh, because fresh bacteria is always better than old bacteria. Every package comes with expiration dates and born on dates. Low use rates, convenient packages, easy tank mixes with liquid starters, on seed mixes with seed treatments and inoculants. You can tank mix with inoculant. And then long living nitrogen fixing biological compared to the others, and no pre-blending with water. So this is just a product that's ready to go, doesn't need additional buffers and so forth. Just follow the tank mix instructions or the on-seed life instructions. So Phenom is the foliar or in-furrow product that has a 16-ounce rate per acre. Phenom comes in 2 by 2.5 gallons, so a case treats 40 acres. Tank mix life of 15 days with starter fertilizer, as we've said. And tank mix life varies a little bit with foliars, different herbicides, but used before 12 hours. And as with everything, and I've said many times here, is sooner is better. Phenom ST comes in a bladder, so packaged very similar to an inoculant. That is a bladder that treats 120 hundredweight of seed. Can be used on any crop. The rate is 2 ounces per 100 pounds of seed with that on-seed life 30 days and a 10-month unopened package life for Phenom ST or Phenom. Yield data on Phenom. So we got 4 years of independent research farm testing done. Phenom on corn, 77% win rate, averaging 8.2 bushel per acre increase, averaging a 4% yield increase. So at $6 corn, that's coming to almost a $35 net profit per acre to the grower. Phenom on soybeans has a 78% win rate, so very consistent across both crops in the data on the win rates and the yield increases. And the yield increase on Phenom on soybeans is 2.7 bushel with a 4% average yield increase. So at $14 beans, that's $23.42 net profit per acre. So most of our soybean data is seed treatment applied, some foliar. Corn, most of our yield data is liquid in furrow applied, foliar applied, and some seed treatment applied. But just to kind of match the industry of how we get products to both crops. Any questions on Phenom before we move to B4? All right, we'll jump into B4. So B4 is a blend of 4 different bacillus bacteria. This is a liquid, and these bacteria are in the spore phase of life. So they are spores. What that means is they are dormant, and they have grown a shield around them. So they are very, very hardy. They can resist chemicals, heat, temperature, just very, very hardy. So all these fragile things we discussed on Phenom, really not the case with B4. B4 is one of the easiest biologicals in the industry to use. So how this works is you can use B4ST as a seed treatment, or you can use B4LIF, liquid in furrow. But the whole point here is you need to contact the seed at planting. There is not a foliar application for B4 because when that seed germinates, the B4 organisms grow on the root, and they grow very fast, very rapidly, and they coat the roots and the root hairs all season long. So we stained B4 and put a root hair under a microscope to show, so you can see how you go right to the root tip. So as this root grows, the B4 keeps growing with it. The root is the carrier for B4. What we're doing is we're treating the soil, and we're solubilizing phosphorus, potassium, calcium, sulfur, iron, and zinc, all that are tied up in the soil and not available to your crop. So we're treating the soil that touches your root. So why it works in the soil is precisely that. It's the biofilm, the coating of the roots by B4. So phosphorus is the nutrient that B4 affects most, and we all know that depending on your pH of your soil, it depends on how much phosphorus you're tying up. So all soils tie up phosphorus, but when B4 coats these roots, it is affecting that soil particles that touch your roots. So when those soils have unavailable phosphorus and those other nutrients, we're releasing that phosphorus and that nutrient from that soil when the root can't do it itself. And we're releasing that from the soil that touches the root. So the root is there to take up and use that nutrient and feed that plant. Because When you apply fertilizer or lime or manure and you incorporate it in, your highest level of available nutrients is right in the top few inches of soil, right where you applied it and incorporated it. So a lot of times what you see is good nutrient availability early on, and the B4 is getting established, growing on the roots, but then that root grows out of that zone of where your nutrients are most available and gets into tougher soils and less nutrient availability and tied up nutrients. And that's when B4 really kicks in and does its job, because we're coating those roots all season long, every root hair, and going after those nutrients that are not available to feed your crop, because we're coating that root and affecting the soil that touches the root. The soil in the middle of the row, it doesn't affect your root, doesn't feed your plant, and it doesn't affect B4. It's the soil that touches your root is what matters, and that's where B4 does its job. So we've been working with Continuum Ag for a couple years doing research on B4, and we finally got several tests done and been able to repeat this multiple times to where we can put a number to it. So in this situation here, what we were doing was, we're taking Haney soil tests. So we're measuring available nutrients to the plant. So we got the untreated corn, taking Haney soil samples from the root zone, or this is the untreated is, so I guess I worded that wrong, but we take these soil samples from the root zone and of the treated and the untreated to measure what nutrients are truly available. So in this field, the phosphorus levels are extremely low. So we're coming in with the untreated at 6 parts per million, and which comes out to about 14 pounds of phosphorus available. The treated corn with B4LIF was coming in, and these were taken at V5, so in June, at 10 parts per million, 23 pounds. So right going from untreated, no B4 to B4, in the side-by-sides right here, we're almost doubling the available phosphorus. And so this is 2 years of research and testing and so forth. So very excited about putting numbers to this. And when you go through the potassium, the calcium, the sulfur, increasing all of those nutrient availabilities by having B4 growing on the root. This untreated came in at 205 yield. The treated came in at 212 for a 6.7 bushel increase. So looking at this increase with this low parts per million phosphorus, I think says a lot, because that's not a lot of phosphorus. It's very little. And so what we need to be looking at here is, many of you, when you look at your soil samples, are probably 15, 20, 25, 30 parts per million. But if you're not doing a Haney soil test and seeing what's truly available, that number can be deceptive. So as long as there's phosphorus in that soil, B4 stands a chance to help your crop. Research farm pictures, treated versus untreated side-by-sides. First trifoliate beans side by side with second trifoliate beans, getting those beans respond to phosphorus so well, and cool soil temps in the spring lower your phosphorus availability. So B4 is really noticeable early on. Seed treatment, different beans here. So a really high quality seed treatment package, Cruiser Max plus inoculant, and then taking that same seed treatment package, adding a B4ST, adding another 3.9 bushel. Bigger roots. These were from very low pH soils that get lime. And as your roots get out of that zone where you incorporate the lime and the pH drops again, your nutrient availability drops again, that's where B4 really kicks in. Testing it with a starter and a fulvic and so forth, and you just see that stair step up and increased roots, increase stalks, increase leaf matter, leaf mass, and increase yield. Bigger beans early on. Stock strength, better fed plants. This is a research farm out in South Dakota that got hit by 75-mile-an-hour winds. And what happened here is the untreated corn blew down. The treated corn with B4ST did not blow down. It was right to the row. Just that improved plant health made the difference. I know it's, things can happen, but it's always a worry of everyone of is that corn going to go down? Maybe it's late, harvest is getting late, but improved plant health, improved stock strength, improved harvestability can make huge differences. B4 comes in 2.5-gallon jugs or 275-gallon shuttles. So a 2x2.5-gallon case treats 40 acres, and a shuttle, 275-gallon shuttle, treats 2,200 acres. 16-ounce rate for liquid in furrow. The seed treatment is a very low rate of 1 ounce per 100 pounds of seed. So a case treats 640 hundredweight of seed, and you have an on-seed life with B4ST of 200 days and a 2-year package life. And the liquid in furrow has a tank mix life with starter fertilizers of 200 days. So that just really shows the difference. Going back to the phenom conversation, the difference in different bacteria. They have different abilities, different requirements of life. That shows the power of these spores. So a very user-friendly and durable product. And new this year, we got a formulation of B4 LIF certified with OMRI as an organic product. So that is B4 organic. It is not the exact same as B4 LIF. It is slightly different. We had to pull some of the ingredients out of the liquid carrier that are bactericides and chemicals that keep that package clean. So it is slightly different. You have shorter life on seed or tank mix. So you got a 15-day tank mix with starter fertilizers. You have a 12-month unopened package life. So it is more fragile because if you open that jug, you stand the chance of introducing a contaminant and shortening the life of that product in the jug. But still comes in 2x2.5-gallon jugs. It's the same rate, and you can get shuttles of that also. But it is OMRI registered, B4 LIF organic. Yield data, we got 5 years of research farm testing on this. 84% win rate on corn, averaging 7.7 bushel per acre, with a 3.7% yield increase, almost $40 net profit per acre over 5 years of testing. B4 on soybeans, 84% win rate with a 4.21 bushel per acre increase. That I'm really proud of that number. That is a big number. A 4 bushel increase on soybeans over 5 years across that many locations and that many states is a really testament, I believe, to the quality of this product. 4.5% yield increase, almost $59 profit, net profit, when soybeans are at $14 a bushel. So you look at this, it really takes about 1/5 of a bushel to break even and pay for that soybean seed treatment, that B4ST. And with these numbers, I really encourage you to give it a try. It costs you 1/5 of a bushel for potential at these great returns. B4 liquid in furrow costs you a bushel of corn. And with these numbers, it's a great opportunity to give it a try in your soils and your farm. DB25, brand new product coming out this year. This is a enzyme produced by a bacteria where we have removed the enzyme from the bacteria, concentrated it, put it in the jug, and really it falls into these antioxidant class of biologicals. So it is a biotech. It is not a biological. It falls into the ROS scavenger. So what that means is it protects mitochondria against oxidative stress. So we're protecting the mitochondria in those plant cells from pollutants, soil salts, heavy metals, pests, diseases, and here's the big two right here. Works wonderfully helping that plant resist and recover from heat and drought stress. We have proven that DB25 is 100 times more efficient at combating stress than a lot of these isoflavonoids in the market. So that's a very major ingredient used in these antioxidants and stress products. And this is a very different technology than those and very effective. So what it's doing is it's increasing the output of mitochondria and the number of mitochondria in the plant cells. And we'll get into that in a second here. And we're increasing the energy production. So mitochondria is the organ in the plant cell that consumes nutrition and makes energy. We're increasing nutrient use efficiency, nutrient cycling in the root and soil zone, and increasing carbon sequestration. There is not a seed treatment formulation available at this time of DB25, so DB25 can be applied in furrow or foliar. So to touch a minute on the mitochondria, mitochondria consume nutrition and convert it to energy to fuel every function in that plant. When plants encounter stress, the mitochondria become damaged. And what mitochondria have the ability to do is create a thing called fission, to where they separate out the damage and cast it off. So they're shedding that damage, but then you have a smaller, less efficient, lower output mitochondria. That's why you see signs of stress in plants. But mitochondria also have the ability to do fusion. So when you have two of these smaller mitochondria after fission, they can join together to make a bigger mitochondria. So then you're producing more energy from the nutrition you consume. When you have DB25 enzyme in your plant, you are preventing less damage of the mitochondria. You have more bigger and greater output mitochondria in these plant cells. So when you're consuming that nutrition, you're creating more energy with DB25 than without DB25. That is how we are recovering from stress. That is how we are withstanding stress. And if you have a really good year and stress isn't your issue, that's how we're getting more energy produced out of the nutrients that the plant takes up. So nutrient use efficiency, stress mitigation, and stress recovery, which all comes back to increasing the available energy for plant growth. Like I said, the stress tolerance and recovery, nutrient use efficiency. We got a lot more info coming soon on the nutrient cycling and the carbon sequestration. So excellent product for that coming out of Continuum Ag very soon on those topics. And so DB25 is an excellent product on its own. And it's also a great companion product because, especially your phenom. Phenom and these nitrogen fixers, these endophytes, that plant needs to be breathing. The stoma needs to open for air to come in, fix nitrogen, like we discussed earlier. When you're under heat and drought stress, the stoma's closed. Anytime that stoma's closed, you're not bringing air in, the plant's not breathing, so you're not fixing nitrogen on that day. When you can have that plant functioning better under stress and heat and drought situations, you're helping these other products perform at a higher level also. So with DB25, the top condition that we see in the Corn Belt for yield benefit is when you got that 10 to 12 days in late summer of heat and drought stress on your corn, and the corn turns a little bit gray and a little bit spiky, those those pineapple tops. When that passes in 10, 12 days or less, that is the number one yield response situation we're seeing with DB25. And that's something most of us all encounter. I cannot stress enough how good this product is.
So Steve, Dave Walton, one of our
Yes.
farmer owners, he used this product the last 2 years as part of your 3-year testing, and he said yesterday when we were visiting that last year he applied it ahead of a dry spell. Didn't know it was a dry spell coming, and that's where he saw probably your highest response that you've seen.
Yeah, he was close
based on
to
what
20
you've told
bushel.
me.
He was close
On
to
that,
20 bushel
yeah,
increase.
and that was replicated last year, and then this year I think he was in that 9 bushel range, and I think he applied it maybe a little later after some issues that came in here. And the reason, well, I guess one of the main reasons I'm really excited about this product, or there's several, is that number one, it's not a live microbial. So for those farmers who maybe operationally say, I'm not ready to handle it, or they're concerned what they may be applying, or their timing. This doesn't have to be sprayed in 2 hours necessarily. But you've got a non-live microbial, but it's derived from the fermentation process, the harvesting of those, the good material from it.
Yep.
And then a specific action as a stress reducer. What I also like about it is it's not a micronutrient. So we're not focusing on the nutritional aspects, which many people use micronutrients as foliars or in furrows, and that's great. I'm not saying we don't. We want people to continue to use those. So now we have a compound that drives specific processes, known processes in the plant, and it's for stress reduction. And we know, and so this gives us an opportunity through the summer as we look at what may have happened or going to happen or did happen. We can apply this material into the growing season. And when we know that there's a problem or a potential problem coming, and get results from it. And I think it's what makes it a nice combination is like Steve was saying, you start out with a live microbial in furrow or an application on a foliar, come back with this a little later. And this can be sprayed a little later in the season, maybe than we would normally spray our earlier biologicals, and still gain this effect. So it's a nice combination of that.
DB25 needs to be in the plant to create more and bigger and higher output mitochondria before the stress. So
Okay.
you get hailed out, DB25 is not going to help you after a hailstorm. It's you want it early, but because we're removing this enzyme from the bacteria, so like you said, Michael, you said it great. There's no bacteria in the jug. We have not found any tank mix issues. We have not found any tank mix life. So all these, oh, you got to do it within 15 days. Oh, you got to do it within 30 days. All those things I've told you on the previous products, that's not the case here. Put it in with your glyphosate, put it in with your Liberty, put it in with your whatever, but get it to that plant because it goes in through the leaf and it is right there affecting those mitochondria to prepare for stress. And like I said, let's say you don't have much for stress. Well, then you're getting more energy produced out of the nutrients that your plant's taking. But all plants encounter stress. I fall into the camp of I want that corn as happy and stress-free as possible to make the biggest cob I can. Because then we're just waiting on pollination to pollinate a bigger cob. We can't, it's not bringing nutrients. It's not bringing, irrigation. It's not, it's there just putting that plant in the best situation. It's affecting that plant to the mitochondrial level. So yield data, 3 years of trials across 11 states. independent research farms, on corn, 97% positive yield response. We have never in my career had a 97% win rate for greater than 1 year. And we're at 97 after 3 years. So very excited about this. This is a terrific new science, this enzyme. It's even going through the patent process.
Yeah, Steve, how many replications on that? Was it 90 something?
No, I think that's 90, not 90 replications. I think it was like 95 locations. So data points where all the replications go into one point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a lot of data because we've just seen such amazing things with this that we've really tried to ramp it up quickly, and that's how we got it to market in 3 years. So 97% positive, 8.5 bushel, coming in at averaging out a 3.7% yield increase. Soybeans, 95% win rate, almost 2.25 bushel, 3.4% yield increase. So, and then when we really dive into the numbers a little deeper, it's the foliar early applied. So applying, our early application of foliar in our testing usually comes in that V3 timeframe. That is the number one application leading the data points at this time. So very excited about that. You can, anything you're going and applying foliar through your sprayer, you can add DB25 to it. DB29 is another new product we're launching this year. It's not new to us. We've had this, been using this ourselves for over 20 years, to be honest with you. This is a biostimulant. This is a additive to your starter fertilizer to compete with the sugar additives in the market. So I get asked the last few years about all these sugar additives and things like that, and they work. They work as a biostimulant. They accelerate microbiology and get them energized and get their growing very quickly. So when you plot them on a graph, they spike and then they go off a cliff. It's a sugar rush. So I was talking to our microbiologist about this, and he's like, well, I don't use sugar. I use this feed here. It's a special blend of micronutrients just for bacteria in the right ratios and the right amounts. And so we started putting it through our testing, and it works great. It's a much more stable feed for that soil biology. Instead of that spike and that crash, it's a stable, longer feed to bring you a longer benefit in a longer window of opportunity in your soil to feed your soil biology. It's a wonderful product to add to these other biological products, because I'm a believer of, you got to be careful what you're feeding in your soil, because not all soil biology is a beneficial microbe. Some of them are harmful. Some of them have negative effects. So I would really use a product that suits your situation best, and use a biostimulant like DB29 as an additive to enhance. So quick yield data on that. So 2 years of field trials, 3 states, 5.5 bushel per acre on corn, and soybeans 2.25. So I'll be getting the stats and the win rates added to this soon, but did not make it for today. Still crunching data on our yields and so forth. So I'll end with saying what I said earlier is we also make a full line of soybean inoculants. So really, if that's something you're into and you need a soybean inoculant, we love and are very proud of our Soy 30 and Soy 7 formulations. Soy 30 is our high concentrate, low rate inoculant designed for seed treaters in commercial applications, very low rates. And something we do in the inoculant industry that really brings that operational benefit is we can do cases. So we got 1x480 cases and 2x240s and 12x40s. All of our cases add up to 480 units treat size. But for the larger applicators out there that inoculate a lot of soybeans, we do what's called the barge. So we give you a discount, so lower your price, and you don't get the cardboard boxes. We just fill up the big, large plastic totes with bladders, whatever number you want, up to 90. And so it's just very convenient on that treater operator when he's very busy. We work with some dealers that are treating 8,000 to 9,000 units of soybeans a day. And when you start getting 20, 30, 40 cases of cardboard boxes piling up at the seed treater, it's not a good thing. So that's where they just lift the lid, pull out the bladder, dump it in the tank, treat seed. When you're done in the end of the spring, when planting's done and inoculating's done, you band the lid shut, send it back for your returns. Simple as that. We got to make it easy on you because we know that time of year is very busy. Is there anything else you want me to cover, Michael? I said a lot here. I tried to go quick and cram a lot in.
Steve, as always, you do a great job. We appreciate the education. Been getting text from a couple people saying how they enjoy the information. We'll bring Steve and Ron back and another time also. Maybe have a little more interactive discussion on some different subjects. Probably bring them back in January. A couple things.
Yep. I'd like to add one little thing, Michael.
Sure.
If you don't mind me being rude and interrupting for a second again.
Yeah, you're okay.
You can follow Dakota Bio on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we have webinars regularly where we focus on one product. So we try to keep it about 25, 30 minutes and really have a great conversation and questions and focus on one product. And we usually give away a prize and stuff like that. But so really follow us. And just so you know too, we can come to your location, your place of business, and do product training and answer questions, grower meetings. So I tell the sales team all the time, we're kind of in this long winter grind right now, December through February, where we're out there pushing, we're going all the time, and we'd love to schedule a time with you to help you with these products and so you can see their benefits. So thank you, Michael.
Yes, thank you, because we did have a question on that, and work with Steve and Dan or Chris or John, Amanda to get scheduled in for Ron and those folks to help us out. Real quick, Trenton had a question. Would you spray DB25 on alfalfa only once per season as an early season application or after each cutting?
That is a great question. So I don't have an exact answer. I would definitely spray it early before that first cutting to get it into the plant. What we have not been able to measure yet, and it's on us to do more testing because we've been focusing on corn and beans so far, but it's sprayed early because when you cut, you're removing a lot of plant matter.
Yeah.
Are we affecting that regrowth or does it need to be applied is the question, and I can't answer for sure. That is something we want to learn. So if someone has the ability to measure that in yield and feed quality, get a hold of me. I would love to work with you to collaborate and do some of that testing.
Okay, great. Can we tank mix DB25 with Phenom, meaning together? Can you put it together and not kind of say overwork or overstimulate the plant? What's your thoughts on that, Steve?
Correct. Yes, you can, because they're totally separate in what they do. So the Phenom is increasing the nitrogen availability and supply in that plant. The DB25 is making that nitrogen go farther. You're getting more out of that nitrogen because of how we affect the mitochondria and how it consumes the nitrogen and all the nutrients. So DB25 is wonderful to mix with anything.
All right. If anyone wants to take themselves off of mute and ask a specific question, they can continue to chat. We're at the end of our time. And Steve, we appreciate you and Ron giving us this great information. We'll invite you back probably in January. We'll see you at the farm shows in different places as we go forward. And we just appreciate the opportunity to work with you on our team, and also to Brad and Ed and Trenton and Jeremy and Jeff and so on that attended today. We'll be sending, this will be posted to YouTube. We'll send it out on a link, and we want you to know that you can forward that to other people. And then also come back next week and the next week for more information as we go. If anyone has any suggestions on topics that they may want us to visit about, beyond just a specific product, right? We spend some time educating just beyond the products, and then we talk about the products. We'd love to have suggestions on what other things that we can visit with you about that may pique your interest as we go forward. So really liked also hitting today those questions about when you're mixing things, what can be a problem for the biology. And you know, we don't want to forget that maybe down to the farmer level, those simple things to bring up to them about safety of the bacteria and what you're doing with them is that operational aspect that we need you to think about. So with this in the moment, I'll stop recording and we'll finish up today, but we will stay on for a few minutes if anyone wants to unmute themselves and just have a side discussion. So appreciate your attendance today, everyone. All right, Steve, well done. Charles, I don't know if you're still on, if you want to hop on a minute, or Trenton. I know Charles had some questions for you. Steve, potentially. He wants to know when you can go to Idaho.
What was that?
Yeah, Charles, remember Charles? We worked with him this last spring from Idaho. He's on. He's wanting to know when you might go to Idaho to meet with a bunch of farmers with him. So
Well, that'll take some scheduling.
Yeah.
After
the first sometime, preferably before the end of February, things start to ramp up around here in March, it seems like. And I messed up the DB25 trial, and I'm really disappointed about that. But we had a phenom trial that came out really good, 10 plus bushel.
Oh, wow. Great.
And I'm just wondering, so Timothy grass, I think we maybe touched on that this spring a little bit, but so, you know, it does better in a cooler climate. We get pretty good yields down here, but there's a couple things with it. One thing they call brown blade, which is basically the leaves down toward the base of the plant just obviously turn brown, and that affects the quality of the hay because Timothy is a huge visual selling product.
Yep.
So, and whether that's brought on by ROS, which I suspect it is, I'm wondering about DB25 on that, because if we can lower the stress, but maintain quality and color, that could be pretty good there. Because what can happen is as these guys are pushing it out longer, waiting for more tonnage, it will flower and then bloom basically, and it gets to be this pollen covered mess out there. And a lot of guys cut it then, and they really are pushing it too long, but then their regrowth doesn't come back for weeks. Like the field will just sit out there brown.
Yes.
They will irrigate for up to 2 weeks sometimes before it really starts to green up again. And that would be huge if we could mitigate that, because usually that's during the hot part of the summer. It's like mid-June sometimes when they cut first cutting, and they'll get up to 6 ton out of that first cutting. But then it's like second cutting is just kind of, nobody quite knows what to do with it, because it's hard to get tonnage and quality out of second cutting because they've pushed the first cutting so hard, I feel like, and the plant is so stressed by the time they cut it, because usually you've got to kill your water, because if you keep watering, then the stuff will go down flat, and it's a pain to work with. So
That's interesting. I don't have
So-
exact answers for you, but that's
So-
very interesting, worth looking
so-
at.
Yeah, so Steve, phenom applied early one time is going to regrow through the plant even into that second cutting.
Yes.
Your DB20, so the question would become is looking at, as Trenton asked, applying it after or for that second cutting after it's been cut. But if you leave this much, you still have those mitochondria being worked on, and you have the phenom to help with nitrogen and so on. So I think one of the keys can be we need to look at, after you do that cutting and you get a slight amount of regrowth. Charles, how long does it stay brown? Do you get any slight regrowth, or does it just sit there and hold? Because if you start getting regrowth, if you maybe could look at an application of the material, that we could look at trying to see if that would stimulate the plant well enough.
Well, I think what's happening here is guys are waiting so long to try to maximize tonnage that plant, the whole hormone shift is taking place, and we're switching in seed production.
The plant is too mature.
Yes.
That's pulling from. So Timothy has
I see what you're saying.
What are called corms, I believe it is. They're almost like a little bulb down below the surface. It's just kind of right. I don't know how to explain it. And I wonder if it's not pulling so hard on those that plant has to restart. And so I don't know what the future of this is, but if we could conquer even one or two of these things, it could be pretty substantial, because it like I said, it can be up to maybe 3 weeks before that stuff really starts to come around. And what happens is it comes around so slowly that then there's a small chance in there for broadleaf weeds, if the seed's out there, which it is, to start to sprout because there's exposed soil. And so then it's like, well, do we spray again to try to knock those things out? And it's kind of a bad situation, but we're not going to convince guys to really cut earlier. I mean, unless they for sure can hit the higher priced market. Like there's a very specialized market that if you hit perfect color, exactly what they want, the price is fabulous. But often there's a tonnage hit and guys are like, well, we're just going to take more tonnage, the volume approach. And we usually make more money doing that. But in return, they're hurting that possible second cutting pretty drastically.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost as if you're saying they go so far into the seed set that the plant has begun senescence.
Basically.
And therefore it's turned its mind, its hormonal balance to senescence, and it's saying, hey, roots are not quite as important. I'm turning into a straw and a head. Exactly. And all of a sudden you come along and cut him and you're like, whoa, wait. You turned into straw, but we want you to turn back green again, and it's too late to do that. And then you've hammered it, and so it doesn't want to restart. If we could experiment and show the farmer, take it a little bit early, leave those roots available in green, they're going to get that extra tonnage on that second cutting. And your point's well taken. Here's what happens, and you see this in alfalfa. People will cut their alfalfa to the ground because they think they're going to get those few extra leaves. If they would leave those few extra leaves to capture that sunlight, to re-energize that plant and regrowth, they can get that extra cutting. And maybe the same thing's happening here.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, and there's been a few other products tried. Simplot, I forget the name of it. They came out with one here. I don't know if it's one of their proprietary products or somebody else. And they were promoting it basically as a way to hold moisture, because it's kind of like they thought what was going on. Guys were killing the irrigation so that they didn't tip all the Timothy over and lay it flat. And they were trying to get this to, hold moisture a little longer, which I get the concept, but it's kind of like there's a lot more going on than just that. And also, it's like we need to drive root growth in this stuff. The concept is everybody's like, oh, well, Timothy roots are only like 2 or 3 inches deep, so we got to irrigate light and all the time. Well, I've grown it before and I've dug with a backhoe, and no, I'm sorry, I've had Timothy roots 3+ feet deep. So Yeah.
Well, back to your original question. I'd love to come out there and talk to you. Let's you have my contact info still, and
Yep.
we can talk offline and get something scheduled late January sometime, maybe.
Yep. No, that sounds great. I'm sorry I took some time today already. So
No,
Yeah,
this is great.
Steve, the other thing is he's got a bunch of potato guys, and we are gonna look at, with the data we have on Envita on potatoes, it's highly convincing. Not saying that same data wouldn't come out on Phenom, right? But I mean, we're talking up to, I mean, dozens of hundredweights more with a nitrogen fixer on taters. But he's got such a diverse crop out there, with the Phenom,
Yep.
and then even some of your other knockins. But this DB25, I think, is really, really something that he can take a hold of, because he's having to manage so many different crops with different timings.
Yeah, I'd love to come out and see you.
okay, we'll stay in
Do a
touch.
meeting and educate and see what we can figure out.
Yep, we'll stay in touch. So
Trent, thanks, Charles. Trent, you got any
Christmas.
comments? Charles, we'll catch up with you on an order eventually.
Yep.
Trent, I see you might still be on there. Maybe you dropped, but go ahead. Since we got Steve on here, you get the extra credit class today here, buddy.
Oh, thanks.
You're the
Michael.
good student that stays after class. Go ahead, sir.
I guess one thing that I'm working on, still putting some proposals and some templates together. Do you have anybody, like even maybe some of the owners on the side of the ownership side, that is using this whole stack of like B4 stacked with Phenom, stacked with 25, stacked with 29 in combination, and using it more as a total crop fertility approach anywhere?
No, we have 2 product stacks, but we haven't gotten into the 3 yet. Our problem is we run out of money doing the testing at the research farms. So it's like we got to focus on that specific science and mode of action, and then we go to the stacks. And we just don't have the volume to do triple stacks, but we have started the 2 product stacks.
So yeah, this Jeremy Parr asked me stacking, Phenom with B4. He's like, "Do you guys have any data with that?" And I said, "I'll just have to ask."
Yeah,
I can't see. I can't see why. I mean, you would say we can't see why it wouldn't help, because the modes of actions are differing modes of actions, right? B4 is actually increasing uptake. Phenom is then improving the process by which the phosphorus moves and flows within the plant. And from a nitrogen fixing. So, I think here's the thing, Steve. If you were to make another consortium, right? You just put Phenom and B4 together and say, let's call it one deal, and say, I mean, I'm not saying you want to deliver it that way, but I'm saying those would be 3 things, multiple things you could stack together. You may not get them in the same jug because of the life.
Correct.
But
yeah, we can't stack them in the jug,
right?
But in the starter fertilizer tank, yes, they do completely different things. It's just a matter of treating the Phenom right and applying it early, because you can use and abuse the B4. It doesn't care, but they're just totally different.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is now. So if let's just take Pivot Bio for example, they're running two guys in there, and there's and so if we take Phenom and stack it with a B4, look, we've got 5-6 species in there, right? And our pricing on that's no different than Pivot Bio.
Yeah,
you're going to have a better result,
yeah,
right?
And I need to dive into the start filtering out those stacks. It's just yield data is so new with getting everything in that I haven't dove into the stacks yet.
I had several people that ran B4 and Phenom, and unfortunately I don't have any hard data from it, just one of those things where the end of the season. But the plant, I've got testimonials from a couple of them. The plant health was just amazing on it. I mean, one guy said actually on his corn, it was just greener all season long. And then he kept driving by it thinking the field was wet. And he finally got into that field and it was drier than his corn that was dead. So several anecdotal stories like that with just the plant health between the two was just, and actually that same guy too, he had to wait like a week before he went cut and baled the stalks. The other fields, they just, things just crumbled. But this one, they went out. It was the stalks had so much health in them yet. They had to let it sit for like a week before they could actually get it baled. So don't know if that's a benefit, but it's definitely showing that the plant health.
We get a lot of people using both, but you don't get data back. But yeah. I got stacks in our research farms. I just haven't teased the data out yet. Haven't gotten that deep. I suck with spreadsheets.
And like you say too, the price wise, you can go B4 and Phenom, and it's less than going like Pivot. So it's worked really well.
Yeah, like with our price in B4 and Phenom, you're at 21, it's just sub $21. You throw in DB25, you're at 32. You got guys trimming, $30 of a dry fertilizer back out of their budget to do that, or are you just trying to promote, hey, we're going to get you the bump on the bushels still?
We promote, yes, bump on the bushels, but everybody's cutting. We're just not coming out publicly saying, you need to cut this much nitrogen. You need to cut this much phosphorus. We're not doing that, but if you got phosphorus on your soil sample, use it.
Okay.
People are putting $35 to $50 in their in-furrow programs for starter liquids.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all that, right? And maybe you don't take it all away.
No, but it doesn't hurt to cut back a little bit of nutrition to pay for these products. You go back to that Phenom slide I had that's 2 years in a row, that corn data coming in with a yield bump with 150 pounds of N and Phenom out yielding 200 pounds of N. That 50 pounds of N is a lot of money. I wouldn't cut 50 pounds across the board on every acre, under every condition, under every soil type. I just can't make that claim. But to cut a little bit to pay for the Phenom, heck yeah. Or to cut a little MAP or DAP to pay for the B4, I'd try it.
It's harder to plan, but I think some of it could depend on how the crop's looking, especially like a foliar with, say, if you've got B4 and Phenom in furrow out there, maybe maybe you look at, if we're looking going into a stressful year, adding the DB25 in, or I don't know. I think there's a little bit more flexibility, especially with the post options, to kind of evaluate what the year is looking like too.
Well, and that's,
I'd love to just have them put all three in, but I don't know. I think it makes sense to have some
Ron's exactly
flexibility.
right. Trenton, we got a hard time coming to you and saying, Trenton, you just need to use everything we got. You got to use it all, Trenton. We can't say that. But then we confuse things by saying, hey, what do you think works best? We're trying to be polite, is what we're trying to be.
Trenton, here's how I want to position DB25 with what we're doing. We have so many options in furrow. People are looking, so you don't want to spend all of a farmer's money all in furrow. we know foliar works many times. It's when did it work? What's with it? What was the limiting factor? We have a lot of micronutrients put out there for foliars. We don't always see a response. Listen, DB25, 90-something% of the time is giving an economic yield response when used as a foliar application. Now, what's the argument? Hey, don't put all your micronutrients in when you're running, you know, your glyphosate and some of these products. So I want to save the $11.25 an acre.
Look at this. Look at this, Trenton. This is my raw data from DB25.
We can't see your screen, Steve, for some reason.
You can't see my screen?
Not
It says
yet.
I'm sharing.
I can.
Yeah. Can you? Oh yeah, for some reason it's not showing up for me. Maybe I just need to read. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Corn foliar, 93% win rate. Liquid in furrow, we're at 100. Corn ST, now that's a very low data set because a lot of these research farms won't treat corn, but 100%. Soybeans, ST, 100%. Liquid in furrow, now that's another low data set, 100%. Foliar soybeans, there's the drop, 88% in a 1 bushel. Soybeans are touchy, they're sensitive. But you get over here, look at this. Corn loves this stuff.
Yeah. So this is a product that you could take to all, you know, to the guys who's like, hey, I'm not doing micronutrients anymore. I'm not putting it in. And we can go in for a foliar. Or you go to someone who says, hey, I'm not ready to do an in-furrow. I don't know. I don't want to do an in-furrow biology. Okay, well, here's something that mixes with anything you're putting down, right? And go that route. So use that in a flexible nature. And I'm really going to push this product as that foliar pass with your chemistry. It's getting it right in there when we're introducing some stresses. And if we put down phenom and B4 or something in furrow, don't jam the guy's in furrow budget up, because he's willing to spend some later because he's like, hey, I made another decision and I see where the crop's at and what's going on. And we've done some extension of the potential ability for that. Now, Steve's data shows if you just use this in furrow with nothing else, look at the good ROI there is on it. So we're not saying don't use it in furrow, but look at what you're doing in the package.
Well, and that's right here. I'll hit share again. This performs better foliar than in furrow.
Yeah.
Because you're diluting it in the soil when you put it in furrow. I mean, still, that's a dang good number. It's working. We got a lot of data points here. We do a lot of liquid in furrow corn research. But here's the thing. It's a 5.5 bushel bump, 2.5% increase versus 11.6 and almost 5% yield increase.
This is and so your win rate 7%, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see a 7% that didn't. You're not going to see that. So here's you got a chance to get all the material on the plant versus some in the soil. And you're potentially addressing another stress issue that's coming onto the plant at the time. So I'm thinking like this. What if you spend all your fungicide in furrow, does that mean you shouldn't have put fungicide on later in the year? No, because it's not a live biological, it continues its activity. So I want to use this product to continue the activity, to extend it, maybe, and this can help you get to potentially when you're going to do your fungicide application, that you pick up that relay, right? We're always relaying and trying to extend the capability of the constituents that we use to pass that baton. This is a key baton pass, and it's non-live.
Would you use this as a fungicide replacement? So specifically late season fungicide application in on corn, soybeans?
Not as a replacement.
Not as a replacement. We do not want to make, here's the problem. Could it? Maybe. Does it? Don't know. Do we want to use?
Science doesn't say it prevents fungus growth.
Yeah. Does it help against fighting fungus growth? Yes. But here's what we're getting into. Then we're making the farmer choose between what everybody else is telling him to do, what he's used for years. And if he doesn't see the response that he wants with this, then he thinks that I should have put my fungicide down. And we should use it in conjunction or in addition to fungicide.
It doesn't kill fungus.
Right. And it's
Okay.
not a micronutrient specific in that pathway that causes a disruption in the growth of a fungus, right? If you go back to Huber and the science on micronutrients that do those kinds of things and why you do those foliars to hold off fungus, right?
We have there is no known science that this kills fungus in any way. This is not a fungicide. This is enhancing that plant to consume nutrition and get more energy out of that nutrition.
Do you, Trenton, use Y drops? Or do you custom or anything like that?
We personally do not use Y drops.
Okay.
I've got some customers that do.
I was just thinking, kind of on your question, as far as do you cut, I would feel more comfortable if a person had the opportunity to come back in season and add nitrogen. And kind of another thought I had is too, we've been seeing these responses on Phenom, and it's been relatively dry years. So if we get a wet year when we're going to get more nitrogen loss, that's what scares me about cutting. But we've been seeing good responses even with dry years where we're not losing much nitrogen.
Yeah, because Phenom fixes less nitrogen in a drought than it does in a wet year.
I got to bounce to attend some other things. I'm gonna let this run for a little bit, and then I got to hop on my other stuff on my other phone. But I'm gonna. All right, I'll let it run for a while.
What did you get any? I know I remember I asked you. I don't think you had data, but did you see any differences in yields or anything with your DB25 strips?
On ours,
Yeah.
Still trying to get together with the one guy. I've got the spray maps where we did the custom spraying for one, and they've been busy doing ditching projects, so still working at getting together with him. So I haven't seen his yield data. The other guy that I dropped it off on, I think that was the trial that I sent to you. I forwarded that yield data on to you on that one.
It's in my spreadsheet then.
Well, his was actually less on the DB25.
That sucks.
Yeah, that's what I said too. So, and he did admittedly say it might be because that was a tougher part of the field.
Yeah.
But that's where you wanted us to put it though, right? I mean, I was like, well,
yeah, I'd put it
give me the
anywhere.
tough
I'd look at the good, the bad, the average. We try to put it across all spectrums.
Yeah.
Because like Dave Walton, Michael's partner, I mean, that guy's averaging almost 250 bushel corn year in and year out. And he's getting a 20 bushel bump. That's not the tough ground. It's that getting it in early before that heat and drought stress. That 10 to 12 days when the corn looks like crap and you don't even want to drive by it because you know it's heat and stress in late August or early August and it's a little gray. When that stress passes, that's when you see the biggest benefit to DB25. But you got to get it in early.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep promoting that again this year as some tank mix partners or an alternative to some of the other programs we're doing. So
I'm going to get Chris over to meet you too. Take care of you. Our new guy over there, I've laid the groundwork that you are to be treated like royalty.
Well, that's much appreciated. He called me, so we chatted the other day, probably been a couple weeks ago now. So we had a good little chat.
Good. Been a while since you got a haircut. You look different than the last time I saw you.
Yeah. Well, what was that? The summer at the Continuum Ag Day?
It
Continuum
probably
Ag
was.
Day?
It probably was the last time I saw you.
Yeah. It grows fast, Steve. Grows fast.
Ah, you young guys, your hair's still growing. Mine's falling out.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I wish I could grow it. I've tried to grow a beard. Now he's abandoned it.
All right, Trenton, anything else?
All right. Not right now. Nope. This is good for today.
Hey, you have a Merry Christmas.
Hey, you too, man.
Thanks
you.
again. Merry Christmas to you guys.
Yeah, thank you too, Charles.